Martha, would you call the roll?
Here. Commissioner Lane? Here. Commissioner Raymore? Here. Commissioner Whitaker? Here. Walsh? Here. Mr. Weber?
Here.
Sure. Can I please have a motion to approve?
Second.
Okay.
Commissioner Taylor? Yes. Commissioner Lane? Yes. Commissioner Raymore? Yes. Commissioner Whitaker? Yes. Yes. Commissioner Weber?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, statement of visitors. We have some visitors here tonight. Nice to see you, George. I understand. I was told you had a statement for us, something, so.
Yes, I'm here with Andy Anderson and Paul George Russell, and the way you want to stand with the I want to just a little bit of speaking one day.
Once we're seated, you can take your mask off or watch your face, and it's hard to hear on the Zoom. As long as you're vaccinated and your space apart safely for now, indoors, you get your mask off.
I'm here, my name is George Russell, I'm a resident of the village at 448 Early Avenue. I'm also a member of the Parks and Beach Committee, as all you're aware. I'm actually here speaking of my own accord, and Anderson also would like to add a few comments when I'm done. And it's an issue, once again, about 2 months ago, I spoke on the issue at our beach, the North Shore Water Information District, and the additional very important job they did with the roadway. And I'd like to thank Noah and John for working through, and Regis and Paul getting that roadway cleaned up, because they come back in after our initial expression of disappointment and do a much better job. So I hope everyone appreciates that. But Ann and I are here today to hopefully focus the park board's attention to the continuing sewage odor problem, which has historically emanated from the sanitary sewer pumping station located in the middle of Sunrise Beach in Lake Bluff. This station is owned and operated by the North Shore Water Reclamation District. The station consists of 2 industrial-looking buildings located directly at the bottom of the beach access road. As any Sunrise Beach user is aware, there is almost always a very unpleasant odor of sewage coming from the station. Because the NSWRD also operates a sewage pumping station that's located on the Lake Forest Beach, we thought it might be informative to perform an odor survey which would compare the sewage odor in the vicinity of the sewage pumping station at Lake Bluff Beach with the sewage odor in the vicinity of the sewer pumping station at the Lake Forest Beach. So over the last 6 weeks, 4 of us, commencing on July 15th, we obtained a permit to get access to the Lake Forest Beach. You know, it's more difficult to get into Fort Knox than it is to Lake Forest Beach during the summertime. They really have the place well guarded. At any rate, several of us on July 15th began making visits to both the Lake Bluff and the Lake Forest sewer pumping stations. To date, a total of 31 visits have been performed. During each visit, we walk the entire perimeter of the Lake Forest station and walk along the south, east, and north sides of the Lake Bluff station and along the bluff on the west side of our station, since it is not accessible from down below. If sewage odor was detected, we backed off from the station and made note of the extent to which the sewage odor was noticeable and unpleasant. During each of these visits, we noted the temperature, wind direction, the speed, humidity, and rainfall during the last 24 hours. On each and every day of the 31 different visits, there was some level of unpleasant sewage odor at the Lake Bluff station at a distance of 10 feet or greater, while not on one single occasion was there any unpleasant odor whatsoever on any side of the Lake Forest station at a distance of 10 feet or greater. There are 2 very small vents located on the west side of the smaller of the 2 sewer buildings at Lake Forest. From these, a very faint odor was detected on approximately 6 of the 31 visits, but only if one stood closer than about 5 feet from the vents. So it was a very, very extremely minor odor. Would not be noticed by anyone at all, any distance from the buildings. At the Lake Bluff station, the sewage odor was always noticeable at distances far greater than 10 feet. There were days when the sewage odor extended up and beyond the top of Bluff, and either up to the South Beach area or the North Beach area, depending upon the direction. Any of you who are routine visitors to the Lake Bluff Beach are certainly aware of the sewer odor issues associated with the NSWRD pumping station facility at Sunrise Beach. The NSWRD stations at Lake Bluff and Lake Forest both perform the same function. The stations collect domestic wastewater and pump that wastewater back westerly to large collector sewers located in the western portions of our respective communities. The wastewater then flows to a large wastewater plant in Highland Park. Because of the pending mass storage tank project that NSWRD is planning to construct at Lake Bluff Beach, commencing possibly as soon as the fall of 2022, we urge the Park District, and we will be urging the village board to aggressively pursue the odor control issue to determine why the odor control system appears to function so much more effectively in Lake Forest than it does at Lake Bluff. If extensive changes need to be made to the odor control system at Lake Bluff, it would seem that these changes would best be made as part of this larger pending storage tank project. NSWRD should acknowledge and solve the odor control problem at the Lake Bluff facility regardless of the cost. The sewage odor control at Lake Bluff should function at the same efficiency as that which it does at Lake Forest. Our elected representative, Tom Swarthout, should assist in determining why there were differences in odor control and what can be done to remedy the situation. In a letter dated July 14th, which was sent from the Park District and Village to NSWRD regarding the pending storage tank project in Lake Bluff, a number of improvements were referenced. These included improvements to the appearance and functionality of the pump station building and site, including but not limited to enclosing the backup generator, constructing the public restrooms, installing significant landscaping, and reconstructing the beach access road and parking lot once that asset project is completed. And of course, rebuilding and replacing the Lake Bluff Yacht Club because that was the new tank project was built. However, no specific mention was made of the odor control problems in that letter. Given it appears that the Lake Forest facility has a significantly better odor control system, we request that the village and partners aggressively pursue ensuring that NSWRD make improvements to the odor control system. During a recent visit to the Lake Bluff pumping station, a resident asked what we were doing. When we started to tell him about the pump stations, he said, "Oh, you mean that state place?" It is hoped that board members will start and continue to press staff to pursue odor control improvements at the Lake Bluff pump station will no longer have to be known as that state place. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
I did alert both John and Drew this morning that we would be attending these meetings this evening. The village board meeting is at 7 o'clock. And Drew did call me back at 5 o'clock. And lo and behold, announced that Thomas Swarthout, our NSWRD representative, is rushing to the board meeting tonight to advise that they are going to put replacement filters in the pumping station down at the lakefront. But I can tell you from my own personal observation, as a 30-year resident, that the odor problem in Lake Bluff is not something recent where the filters have become clogged and are working. It has been going on forever. And having been in the municipal business, I can tell all the board members that people like John and Jim and Noah are always loaded with too much work. And the only way we're going to get this odor problem fixed is if a board member or two has a burning passion to get this fixed. In every meeting, you ask John or Jim or Noah or the appropriate staff person, how's that issue going? They can only do so much. And I hope that this is our opportunity when this station is built to fix this. It requires, major revamping or something in the station. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, George.
And I think
And I just want
Can I ask a quick question on that? George, did you notice when you were there, difference in the size of the equipment, the age of the equipment, just from looking
we're
at?
only walking around outside of the
Yeah,
site.
right, and nothing
No
else other than
access. No access at all to the interior, and you can tell by looking at the stations that the venting arrangement is completely different.
Yeah,
So something was different in the original design.
for sure. But like, does one look like rusted out versus the other? Like, you know,
No view at all of the actual
Okay.
buildings. It's all done outside, just very.
Got it. Okay, well, thank you.
Do you think you could possibly leave it open?
Oh, well, because of the fact that my memory and many people's memory is that the odor is always there, that may, if they put in brand new filters, might we experience some improvement? We certainly may, but I know I want to continue to monitor the situation, because I was shocked to find out how good it is at Mayflower. And it is the same thing with Pumping Station. And I didn't know that they controlled the odor that well. I just assumed NSWRD was always working very hard to control the odor at our station, but we're certainly not doing a good job as they are on May Forest on the Sick Station. That's all I can say.
Thank you.
My name is Annie Anderson, and I've been around for 25 years. I'm coming tonight as a resident, but I also bring with me over 35 years as an environmental professional. I know the steel mills and oil refineries, and I smell a lot of worse places. But I want to talk just a little bit about the study. George and the other members of our team tried to quantify our numbers and calibrate them to get a more accurate study for the extensive air emission. I think what we did points out a qualitative problem, and that's especially a problem with quality of the air and water. Yeah, any questions would like.
We have recently begun planning how we want to go about discussing a number of these issues with commercial water reclamations. Because there's the issue of the access road down to it, which we all recognize is in better shape since they patched it up, but it's not suitable really. You brought to the fore this odor problem at the beach. They talk about this project that may or may not start next year and will end up closing the Encore for a period of time, presumably closing the South Beach for a period of time. And we don't know what other inconveniences we're going to run into. So at a meeting that John and I had with Regis Group, we agreed that John and Drew would meet on a regular basis with their counterpart of commercial water regulations. But we wanted to keep it, I mean, I think it's fair to say that some of us feel some bad faith on the part of commercial water regulations. That they are not always that responsive to the needs of their community. And they're sitting right in the middle of our beach. I mean, we all know. We wanted to keep we want to keep the temperature low. And hopefully through the staff process, and John and we're meeting regularly with them, we could work with them to try to overcome these issues. And there are several important issues. The project Scott brought to our attention earlier, that, the timing, what they're looking at for the project, John got more information today that I saw. I think we all saw that. So we're going to pursue that for the time being. And hopefully we can work through these issues at that level, keeping things calm, not having to take it to the board level, which I think we all like to do if we can. But certainly this is another issue that we have to put on the list of really important issues that we have to deal with them. So on behalf of the board, I can say we really appreciate you coming here, and doing this study, which is quite interesting. And good luck at the building meeting.
Thank you. Thanks for your comments. I'm rushing out on the interstate, but I appreciate that. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Can we have some way within the system to make sure that this gets back on the agenda on a timely fashion? To respect what you said and wanting to work through it, but to make sure that it doesn't fall off because it isn't memorialized in the original letter. So I don't know if we can say 4 months, 6 months. I'd love to be able to say something before next summer because it is bad down there.
That's correct.
Fortunately, we're working on our speech, with the, from our, the sound part of it, to make sure that it's addressed there and then right.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it doesn't get lost.
John, do you have a meeting? You have not met with the North State Water Division.
No, not yet. Drew sent them, as Drew and I talked a little bit more about it, sent them an email to Dave Miller to arrange a meeting, a staff level meeting, and to talk about doing that on a monthly basis, to talk about the issues and the planning of the projects, et cetera. And I know he sent one a few weeks ago, and we didn't see a response. I sent another one last week, and Dave did respond on Friday. So now we're working through, getting a date and, setting up an agenda, for that first meeting to talk about. So we don't have a date yet, but it's getting close.
I think if you can do that on a monthly basis, I think there's going to be enough going on with whatever project we end up doing at the beach, their project down there, and these other issues that, I think we all feel that we really need to stay on top of this and just have you solve it. And, we'll get into the beach later, but that makes it really complicated. So that memo you sent about timing and so on, well.
And I did forward that memo on to Bill Weaver to talk about timing, but he had some interesting thoughts. I'll share, I just received that either right before the meeting, but I'll share that with you as well.
Okay, good. Fine. Do we have any other visitor statements? Okay, I know Barry is going to talk, but that's an agenda.
Right, so all,
Okay,
2 or 3 people that are here for that.
so that'll be during the agenda item. Okay. Moving on to verbal communication staff.
I just want to start out tonight. One thing I wanted to say is that you see we went back to the one speaker system with 2 speakers on different tables kind of spread out. We got to work better, and feedback on Zoom was that they could not hear as well as the one speaker. So we've gone back to the one speaker. We just kind of asked everybody to speak up and hopefully speak without your mask. Again, if you're vaccinated and you're distance, you can take your mask off. So I just wanted to mention that about the speaker for seating for Zoom. The only other thing I have, most of my information is in the report that's in the package, and I'm going to touch a little bit more about an update on Sunrise, but I'll do that when we get to that last item under new business to talk about the Sunrise access and project impact. So, does any of the other staff have a comment this time?
Okay. Finance Administration and Future Planning Committee. Scott, I know much of what you did at your last meeting is going to come up later in the agenda. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
We don't have any news to add. I will be going over things a little bit later under new business.
Jennifer, RTD Committee. Facilities and programs, no?
I think it was on there, right? Yeah. And then, we just kind of decided 3 goals, the 4 old ones, just kind of following up on it. and then 3 new ones that recommended 2 of them. And then one was kind of the welcome package that, Andy Drummond came up with, which is a great idea. And I don't know if you received the email about the chamber that, did you get that from me?
I didn't see that.
The Chamber of Commerce actually does welcome boxes, and they do it quarterly, and they said, first night I got pictures of it, they actually, 1,000 new family members who live in Lake Forest, it doesn't ever collapse, this would be really good thing for us to. We're talking about getting gym development, yeah, access to it. And then I also mentioned this, merchandising, and they also do that through American Apparel, they have done for the Bluff, 2025, and also the, schools, and.
Yeah.
And you guys can use it for too, right?
Yeah, for gymnastics and
So doing some other sources of revenue. And then just an update with the fitness center, strategic plan with Jim Viva, with an update and then some goals for, extended.
And then,
Yeah.
Justin.
We'll talk about it.
Okay, Friends of Lakeville Parks, Nikki.
I think we gave most of that last week. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Did we talk about I don't know if we had the total, the last, because the big thing is that, Sunrise Rocks is coming up again. They're doing that on 9/4, Saturday night. It's gonna be 7 to 10. I think everyone's seen that come out too. They made 11,000 for that one last year. Basically, or more.
And the wedding was pretty good the last.
No, it was kind of chilly and yeah, so what happened, what it will be this time, we don't know, don't jinx it. But, that, and then I don't know, we need to sell more beach prints, so if anyone has any ideas for that, I think, the total is $4,000 in beach prints that they've made so far, so.
Maybe we need one like in golf course.
Yeah, I don't see why not. Anything else that you remember, John? I can't remember. That and then stuff I brought up the other day, which I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think we had a special meeting right after the friends meeting, so we talked about it,
Right.
items that were talked about during the meeting, but I don't think we all.
Was there any discussion, the point we brought up, I guess it was last week, on whether the bricks, we had a question, because, they said they had $95,000 towards a $100,000 commitment. Was there any discussion of whether that included the bricks? Because we had that question,
I
whether the bricks
have
were
the
additional.
financials, I think it does include the bricks. But I actually looked back, I don't know if we've looked at the bricks were sold saying, protection and upgrades to the Lake Bluff Beach. They were sold under that guise, it wasn't just erosion, just so we know that for our own, like it, you look at the sales and ship, the wording around that verbiage, it does say that. So, no further news on that because they're not discussing until the next meeting, but it does say that. So, I don't know what that means to us or that, or what they're using the money for.
It's fairly broad. It sounds like we.
Yeah. Yes, for sure.
Under elections. They kept it very broad, say, coming to the beach, so that they didn't earmark something specific.
Any other commissioner comments?
One of the items I'll just mention too on that, they're also paying the roughly $11,000 grading bill for the rivers. Money that was raised.
Oh, so that still has to be paid.
I think we paid it, and
They'll have $85,000.
Okay.
so we paid that, and they're gonna
That's
reimburse
what
us.
I feel on nothing. So $85,000.
And bricks can still be bought. So, yeah, I think.
They can replace it.
A lot of people ask, now that they're out there, people are asking about it, but we reopened.
What will you do that once a year or twice a year?
Maybe I don't know.
I think we talked about maybe twice a year. So it's already reopened, and it'll probably go through the holiday.
Yeah.
And then probably install those in the spring now.
Any commissioner comments? Okay, I just want to say, we're going to get into the discussion over the financing. I want to thank Josh and the finance committee. I thought the numbers you came up with, we'll go into that in more detail. I just want to point out, I thought they were great. And at first, my eyes were kind of spinning in my head and tearing along. Put some drops in and calm down. And went through them. I thought they were really good. And so I wanted to give a shout out. I see Noel is on this meeting as well. And so to the finance committee and to Josh, that was really, I think, a job very well. Okay, can I please get a motion to approve the minutes of the July 26th?
So moved. Second.
Arthur, roll call please.
Mr. Wheeler.
Yes.
Mr. Lane. Yes. Mr. Rainbow.
Yes.
Mr. Peter.
Yes.
Mr. Walsh.
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, if we move on to the consent agenda, we have the invoice schedule, ACH payments, July 2021. We can do this all together, right? And the invoice schedule for the period ending July 27th, August 23. Does anyone have any questions or comments about those schedules? I give Josh a hard time when he comes to me. I did it, I kind of overcame my promises. Okay, can I please then get a motion to approve those two invoice schedules?
Second.
Mr. Wheeler. Yes. Mr. Lane. Yes. Mr. Rainbow. Yes. Mr. Peter.
Yes.
Mr. Walsh.
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, now to the month-to-date, year-to-date financial. Josh, you want to?
So the third month, the current month, we've got a fund that lost $115,000. Which is over budget, $12,000. Revenues above budget, $68,589. Into the property tax received. Expenditures are over budget at $56,453,000. We had a monthly ladder at $61,000. The budget. 6. For year-to-date, we're above budget. The general fund is above budget $65,482. The rec fund revenues above budget $245,000. And that's mainly for programs, especially camps. If you look at page 1 and 2, goes into a little more detail for programs and lessons, total revenues above budget $260,000. 190 is from our programs. Our programs 100 is from camps.
Well, I had a question. The personnel services, if we look year-to-date for the rec. Personnel services are over budget, contractual services well under. Is that one substitute for the other, essentially?
Contractual services is some that will need still timing issues. And for personnel services, it's just a lot of that is beaches for lifeguards, staff.
Yeah, we have a conservative budget, right? So we ended up, because we were in phase 5, had the ability to serve more kids, which means we may need more counselors. So, personnel services big law, as well as, minimum wage. I mean, you know, had that discussion over again, just to compete against like Lake Forest Rec, to compete Libertyville. We had to pay more to individuals to have that high level managers, whether it was aquatics or programs. We're seeing it now involve the teachers and special instructors. That's just going to be a trend.
You know, and I saw, we have how many new teachers for the fall?
We have a new classroom, so that's a new teacher and a new teacher aide. We only have our 2-year-old teacher, Megan Mello, is only coming back on a part-time basis, for 2 days. So we had to get another 2-year-old teacher the other days. And, Sheila Thompson, as of right now, we go this time. We do, a personal health. So we have new teachers, all right.
And how is it, I mean, are you, to get new people, you're having to pay more money presumably?
Yes. Yeah, but, it's very competitive when it comes to teachers and teacher aides for preschool. So that becomes a challenge. We just filled it last week. We were, Dana Hansen, our preschool director, did a phenomenal job. Tina Brewer, trying to find people, and we start afternoon kindergarten this week and preschool next week. So they accomplished that, and we have a full staff moving forward. For at least the preschool.
We try to incentivize those jobs with things like, fitness membership doesn't really cost us money. To extend that to them as, as well as the pay. Try to help us. It is very, very competitive, difficult to track. The amount of staff that we need.
And these are things that existing teachers all already have as well.
Yeah, we work certain so many hours.
Yeah.
That's our existing policy. We were talking about changing the only thing, to work so many hours. We're looking at making a recommendation to the board at some point, possibly to be back, review that, just say, it doesn't matter how many hours you have that, if you only work 5 hours, we just to help us attract some of those people. There's a threshold right now for that, and that might be something we want to look at adjusting.
Get that order. Keep that in there.
To offer the fitness center membership for part-time staff that works so many hours, but we're talking about maybe if we lower that threshold to help us try to attract those even with less hours for these part-time staff.
I had a question for you, Josh, and Sue and I were talking about this earlier today. You may want to make some comments too, Sue.
Well, there are a couple things. If we could get some sort of a projected budget, so there's a lot of, well, this is because there's arrears and that whole game that we play.
Yeah.
A year-to-date projected budget may help us without having to go do the math ourselves.
Yeah, we're
Say
in the
that
process.
we're still on,
We're in the process.
Okay, that would be cool.
Yeah.
And if there was one way to just get like a 1 page of, a traditional budget. Here's the fund, here's the budget, here's revenue, expense, and variance, year to date, monthly, just to get it on 1 page, because I find myself, that's why I had John print this out, okay, like, where's the expense and where's the revenue, and let me compare, just give them, so.
I mean, otherwise, it looks to me like performance is going pretty well. I think some of the areas, and I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but some of the areas, health and fitness, is that still not quite as strong as we would have hoped?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I believe it's starting to have an uptick now. So hopefully, as we get into colder months, we'll see memberships continue to grow. Again, we have an older clientele. So So, you know, COVID, that has been, probably the toughest thing that we've had to deal with. And this is, this isn't just like Bluff.
Sure.
That would be probably the area that I'd be most concerned about. Next would be racket sports, a little bit more on the tennis side, really struggling in the tennis. We have some Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm sorry, for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And we've been looking for a tennis instructor for months. So this is, we've been strategizing, trying to figure out, Mark Montgomery, who oversees it, he's been filling in, as well as he's been filling in for a fitness associate, upstairs. So we're trying to strategize on all those things. We've got some ideas we talked today, so hopefully we'll have idea and a way to at least take in more kids for these times. Fitness center, I anticipate that that's going to be a little slower to get back up. As for all of our summer programs, we actually exceeded 2019 numbers in most of those categories for the summer. So that was a really good sign. And that was not increasing fees, that or pulling back on expenses. That was strictly the number of sure volume of kids that we brought in for camps. And I anticipate preschool and enrichment will also have a strong showing this fall. So I gave Josh over some projections, so we'll continue to give them that and who knows.
And I think the health and fitness is just probably not going to get any better.
Yeah, I agree. I think with the Delta variant, you know, if they go, you know, they could get to where they recommend the masks indoor while working out again, and that's, you know, a lot of business don't like that. So it's really gonna kind of depend on where we're going, you know, dealing with the virus. So I would, you know, we're hopeful, but I would, you know, temper that for the fall.
Is there any way we could like do a like relationship, sponsorship with like a hospital or something to kind of help? With let it go or, so that, you know, kind of like, as we go after you're entered, kind of keep going, you know, so where we can do like a partnership kind of help.
With physical therapy,
Just a partnership with this placement where, you know, get injured, right, you go to the hospital and do rehab. So you either do rehab at some specific hospital, or you do that at Atletico, you do like a sponsorship for the PFB and those kind of big marketing for them, but then.
Yeah, you get signage from it.
Yeah.
that's a good idea. We've seen where they, you know, because they do need to transition the fire, maybe with hospital doing therapy, and then they'll need to transition to their local gym, you know, so that need to stay there. So maybe, Jim, you can talk to Mark and we could explore whether that's something we could, you know, partner with some of those local therapy or hospital.
And I didn't say Northwestern because they had their own, but they had the Northwestern. So I've never seen you North Shore, and maybe that's
You know, North Shore has the orthopedic institute, for example.
So I lost some friends to get it one day.
Oh,
I do like to, you know, maybe there's a sponsorship. of that, to how to do it.
Good topic for facilities and programs.
And,
Okay, now if we go to the purchase permits, do we approve them? We need a motion to
accept.
to accept.
Second.
Marcia, roll call.
Commissioner Miller? Yes. Commissioner Wayne? Yes. Commissioner Whitmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Peter?
Yes.
Commissioner Welch?
Yes.
Commissioner Weber?
Yes.
Yes. Purchase permit, oh,
Oh, go ahead.
Any questions on the purchase cards? Can I please get a motion to ratify the purchase cards?
So moved.
Call the roll.
Yes.
Commissioner Wright? Yes. Commissioner Raymore?
Yes.
Commissioner Peter?
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh?
Yes.
Commissioner Weber?
Yes.
Yes.
I would like to make a motion, I don't know if this is legal, but to consider in the new business, maybe moving up the native demo garden so that the three young people here for that. Could excuse the other topics might go over.
That's,
We're moving to,
You'd like to move now on to A
right.
and speak that. That's up to you, the president, you're able to do that. If you'd like to rearrange the agenda, move that up.
I agree. Let's move the native demo garden discussion up to the first of business. We have two visitors, and Sue who's involved with this. So, Sue, do you want to introduce
I will,
the topic? And
yes, so, I asked some people to come tonight to talk about a native demo garden. There was a collaboration with my club. We started as a book club, and there was a lot of enthusiasm. So we got the Lake Bluff Open Lands, Lake Bluff Garden Club, and this book club to come together and talk about doing the potential for a demo garden. And Mary, I put my notes on top of that. Marion is the current president of the Lake Bluff Garden, and Anne is in the book club, and Lisa is also in the garden club and the book club, and I'm on the Lake Bluff Open Lands. We represented small people.
We're excited, the Lake Garden Club is very excited about the opportunity to have a native plant demo garden. Part of our mission for over 100 years is to support native plants, insects, wildlife. And so this is an opportunity to take that idea on paper and real, so that the community can involve, the community can learn why this is so important. And then have a place where they can go and visit and actually see the butterflies and bloom. So Sue got our club excited about it when she holds Nature's Best Book Club. And the idea of Nature's Best Book by Doug Talmay is to have a homegrown national park where everybody takes a little bit of their yard and turns it into a native space. It doesn't have to be big, but if enough people do that, we will create wildlife corridors, native wildlife corridors. And that would support our environment, our whole health. And so the garden club's excited to get involved, and I see us participating on a regular basis. Any kind of demonstration garden we have, we've got a club that goes with trees and likes to dig in the dirt and plant and weed and everything else. So I'm here to tell you that the Lake Garden Club's thrilled. Me personally, I'm totally excited about it.
So with that said, the ask is we're looking for, I would say, a temporary donation of space. I had set a business plan, not more than 400 square feet in a place that we could develop a garden that would look like someone's yard. So they could visualize what this garden would look like and could it work in their yard. So it would be an impermanent structure. I mean, a garden is pretty easy to switch to grow over. We aren't asking you to put in any hardscape or anything else that would make it a permanent location. We hope it's permanent. And we would certainly fund it. The only thing we talked about was potentially maybe needing some water, if there was water close by to help water. Native plants typically don't need additional water, except for the first couple of years when they're getting established. And then that would be the only ask. And then the garden club and the Bluff Open Lands and this Nature's Book Club. So this is about 100 people in this group. It's kind of cool to get this thing together. have shown interest and will be helping. We're putting together a project team to go through all the process, developing the space, picking the plans, planning out how we want to build it, how are we going to get rid of the grass and put the soil in, how are we going to plant the seeds, plugs, whatever. And then there'll be a maintenance component. We can go in and meet it the first couple of years. And then hopefully it takes a couple of years to look beautiful, but hopefully that would be an inspiration. We could maybe put up some signs, again, it might be permanent signs where we could label the plants and then have available for others, here's the species that we use. This is how we did it so that people could take this if they wanted to and transfer it to their yard. So that's the big idea.
You know, the other thing I wanted to say is, if it's in a community space, then people can see it walking by, but this is where you get schools involved, or church groups involved, or scouts, or, middle school's got an environmental club, so is the Lake Forest High School. So this idea of having an example, and then all of us are gonna learn enough about the plants to be able to go out and do tours, or, gather seeds, and say, let's go to your house and see where this plant can grow. So it's a stewardship program, that sense of community stewardship. It's also part of the demo garden, that we all learn from each other, we share ideas, we, just engage in the wonder of a transformation like this. And then if it catches on, it won't seem so odd to not have a lawn or to have less lawn. It's a way of getting a good message from here. If it's in a place where everyone can see.
So with that in mind, we went and we toured the village. We had several groups go out several times looking at potential locations for where something like this could go. We were looking for a place that was potentially visible, but also was a place where people could get to easily. So there wasn't an issue with parking. We weren't going to put it on the main street where people might stop to look at it and cause an accident. We wanted to keep it away from salt so that we didn't have to worry about salt sensitive plants, etc. So with that in mind, the number one spot, we have about 5 or 6 places, locations that we've identified within the village. So we are working with the village, but our number one spot was a small piece of land in Artesian Park, just west of the tennis courts. And our number 2 spot was around the paddle courts in Blair. So those were our top 2, and they were both partners, so it makes sense. I think Artesian was by far the most popular place to have a little. So there's the trail that comes by the tennis courts and goes out to Sheridan Road, and then it also beats across and goes out to the west of the fire station, so you can get into the village from there. But it's got a nice trail. There's paths from multiple different directions for people to be able to come see it. That's our ask. Would you consider letting this group take a small plot, no more than 400 square feet, and turn it into a meeting event?
From the car fifty down, right next to Rex. Yeah, it's much more manager, but how well?
That's a whole other market story as Washington Park, right? And it's community property. And the story goes, like Hill Garden Club back in the 1990s. Took that little forgotten corner, I think at that time, if anybody was around that, it was like a town up. Overgrown weeds, washing machine out there, mattresses. So the Lake Garden Club attempted that. And over the years, turned it into this beautiful little Washington Park. And the club, garden club tended it, they put sprinkler system in. But as time went by, membership changed, people moved away, and the labor involved with maintaining a park like that. And one of the big oak trees that provided a lot of shade died, so suddenly this one shade space was a hot, bright spot. So the story is that as a member of the garden club, I heard that the garden club was going to just relinquish the park back to the village, and they were going to remove all the beds and just turn it into lawns that we easy to take care of. And I thought, you know, what a shame, it's a great spot. So, I didn't hold a 600 hour drive in Bluff. And one landscapers in Newton, I talked to them about it, and my husband and I thought, you know, let's see if we can keep this alive somehow. And so I talked to our project manager, Newton, and I said, John, you know, give me a 5-year plan, we want to create a teaching garden, a demonstration garden. And he came back to me a month later and said, we do pro bono projects every year, and Washington Park is our pro bono project. So Community Landscape provided all the labor, all the material to create the park. We had our husband and I donated, there were people that donated. Mike Jarvie from Crabtree used the dead oak that died to create the park benches in there. And he took a tree from Crabtree and fashioned this beautiful natural oak table and benches in the park. And so the garden club and Lisa was one of the stewards. So we're taking 2 years to try to develop a stewardship program that includes the community. But we're still learning about plants, we're learning about maintenance. There are no chemicals at all used. A quote for what it would take to maintain if it was professionally maintained, and it was staggering the amount of money that went into tree care. And so I talked to the community and said, we want to take 2-year experiment, no chemicals, no blowers, nothing. We're going to break the leaves, we're going to do all this. So my husband and I don't think we like to do my own work, but just so he and I have taken over the sponsored part ourselves, and as soon as we get our stewardship program up and running, we'll have volunteers that can go in and make some of that. We put signs up. We have a lot of compliments from people saying, what is that park? And just worried about any plans. And so that's a long-winded way to tell you that's what the park is. That is not Park District, that is Lakeville Garden Club is here right now, working with Newton. Their landscape manager, their landscape designer. The plan is that eventually the garden club will develop a stewardship program, and then we will expand that program to the schools, to the neighborhood, to get people out there working and learning. And so in a way, it's kind of a model for what Sue is talking about. We're in the process of we had heavy sponsorship from the get us off the ground.
Yeah, and I think probably the main difference is that is almost a whole yard. So that's a significant installment. In addition, it's a lot of pollinator plants, but it's not 100% native. So there's value to have that for pollinators, but when you look at ecosystem native, you want to get all native, but we wanted something that someone could envision putting in their yard. And that Washington garden is beautiful, but it's not something that most people are taking while in their garden. So it's a smaller version. I think only on native plants, because our goal is to get people to see beauty in native.
And the other thing is the site that Sue's talking about is very different than Washington Park. Site we all looked at and liked so much is out in the open. There's a lot of sun. It's like someone's yard. The Washington Park was a park for many years, and so they're different. They're still teaching spaces, but the new idea that this is going to, I think, a lot easier to translate into, look at this here, what
But what was identified was in front of the pedal, if you look straight onto the paddle from the parking lot, on either the very left or right of the front. So there's already beds there, you've got lagoons. That was the area.
To stay out the door.
Yeah, but again, it was a strong second, like way below. Artesian was number
I'm
one.
trying to figure out what that, I know it's weird.
So you're thinking immediately to the west of the tennis courts, and a little tennis out. So there's the trail goes right in front of the tennis courts. Oh, okay. And then it continues on Sheridan Road. It's right there along the trail, just west of the tennis courts.
You know, what I would suggest you do, if you can, I would suggest you draw a map of the two areas you're talking about and send it out to all of us. So that we can then, over the next few weeks, I mean, we're not, we need to get answers. So that we can individually, when we have a chance, go out and look at the lake, look at the space you're talking about. I think it's a terrific idea. And if it's just water, then we got plenty coming out of the pool every day.
And we're not talking a lot of water.
She's at the fire hoses from the fire station right there.
So,
It's just been there. Not no
Yes,
water.
I would say from a staff perspective, Noah and I met with Commissioner Raymore and Joyce and
Nikki,
Nikki. Okay, so, to, review that it was Artesian, it seemed to work for the location, well, the primary, from our perspective, does it work with maintenance, you don't want to create a maintenance issue where it's too close to bushes or a tree or something else where they can't mow it, now they have to get off the track, to get on a, push mower, so it cost more time, but it wasn't gonna cause that. It has adequate parking, so we didn't wanna look at some other areas, but it's more roadway, with those adequate parking, so this would have, city parking, and water was available, so it really seemed to fit, it would probably work. One of the concerns Noah brought up was, it would be nice to have some signage, because in the beginning, it can kind of look like, a portion of the park that's unkept,
right.
as they try to establish the native, habitat, so we have a sign that's saying, this is showing what it is. I think that would help, but, from our perspective, the location in Artesian would probably work pretty well for this type of garden.
So I would say that if you would go along with Artesian, we don't even have to talk about it. I mean, it doesn't have to be a decide if Artesian works. It seemed to work extremely well from John and Noah's standpoint, just for resources. And, we would certainly work with the park district to make sure we would talk that we had, like, the area was divided into to have a walk path. We would make it so it was the width of the mower, so that would be an issue. I mean, so we're more than willing to do whatever we need to make it work. So we're flexible on space, and the location is nice because it's easy to get to. I told the village, if ideally, I'd like to bring it from the village hall, but that's not gonna happen. So this is our thing. So this really was our best spot. So
What about the green space by the middle school? Because I love the notion that you were talking about a teaching garden and involving students and stuff too, and they've got all that green space. I know a lot of it is for fields, but did you think about that or look at that too? I mean, even as an additional spot.
it's just that it's not a place that people go to. People are more likely to go for a teacher. They have the rain, Labola has a rain garden. They work with the middle school to do the rain garden. Ultimately, the plan with the village is to have those corridors along Sheridan Road all blended into the plan. So that's down the road, and we don't want it to look like just the road. We want it so confined that it looks like a garden that's open for the
I think it sounds like a lovely idea, so thank you for researching it and presenting tonight. My only question has to do with bees, right? So I don't know anything about native plants. I think I would love to personally walk by it, right? But there are a lot of kids at the playground, tons of people playing tennis right there. So do you perceive any kind of insect, bee problem, right? There's a baseball field right there. Where
No,
there could
so-
be,
Yeah, it is an isolated garden. I mean, ideally, we want a lot of bees, but this isn't gonna really.
right, you want bees, but
It's not gonna really be big enough to support a huge, bee. In addition, what the native plants bring is that they attract the native bees, and the native bees aren't. I mean, it's a whole different game, but we're not talking next to like honeybees. We don't anticipate honeybees. You know, you're gonna get yellow jackets whether you want to or not, but this isn't going to be a attractive yellow jacket. So you wouldn't have more than a normal.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know
But
what
you're
you're
gonna
talking
get,
about.
you're
Yeah.
gonna get your yellow jackets in the
Argument.
non-native,
We're just like all sudden gonna be, you know, when it's time, so.
That's a very good question and point. We did discuss that, that we want to put friends at a playground or, from a programmatic standpoint, there's softball teams, in between games, go sit in this area and set up, or if they can't do anything here. It really is a pretty good location when we don't really have anything programmed in that area. It's not right beside the playground, so I think from that standpoint, it's a pretty good location. I don't think it's gonna cause a problem with anything around it, or use of the park.
you're not gonna have close normally the 30 or 50 feet to the tennis court. I mean, it's a pretty long way, so, yeah. But that's a great question. So, yeah,
Give us the map. And, I'd like to move this along. I would suggest, get us a drawing, where we're looking. And, do one of the, just in case. So we can look at it, because most of us are around at some point, so it doesn't take long to go by our teachers. And then, working with John and staff. And then I think we can put this on the agenda for some time.
we would, if ideal, we would like to do it this year because we lose a whole year if we can't get that bed dug this fall.
What's your deadline?
Well, I was hoping to do it tonight, obviously, but certainly by the end of September. Because even that's gonna be kind of tight, but we're not gonna dig now, it's too hot. So October's probably the good time, so that would be it. Yeah, we can do a Google map. Anyway.
Good, thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. Very good.
Thank you for
My wife would be a good customer. Very illustrious.
Well, we're gonna do the book club again, we can get a regret,
If we can now go back to item A, new business, board policy manual for board committees. John, you want
Sure, so the question after the, facility programming, committee meeting came up about is there a possibility to change the committee? And that came about, they currently have two, board members. Our policy calls for, you can have up to 3 board members, and up to 2 citizen members on these standing committees. We currently have 1 citizen committee member and 2 board members on that committee. They received 3 applicants, or applications from 3 different residents that were interested in volunteering to be on that committee, and so they performed interviews, and they'll, and Commissioner Lane can tell you a little bit more about that, but, the basic question came up, is this, could we change this and add a 3rd citizen member? There's a couple of ways to do that. One would be expanding the committee to 6, and you would have up to 3 board members, up to 3 committees. The other way would be to say, it could be 3 board members and 2 citizen members, or it could be 3 citizen members and 2 board members. Talking to staff, I know that there was a history behind why it was, established what it was, with 3 board members and 2 citizen members. But it doesn't seem to be like a hard fast rule that we would have to stay with. So I think that there's some flexibility, but it wouldn't be changing the policy.
Yeah, I think we brought it up in the committee. Part of the time people can't come, and it's just nice to have extra, citizens involved in these committee meetings. Because it's just brainstorming, and so it's nice to have like actors. So we have 3 committee members, so they can make it, at 4, we just not. and things come up. So, and it's not, you know, for just an example, for like the high school, they have committees, like educational, and they're pretty big. They have a lot of, just, it's uncommon to ask for like. It's not unusual.
I think it's a great idea. And whenever you can get citizen input, not only is it helping citizen input, but now you have a bigger bench for people who might eventually want to become a board member, which.
And that all.
We had 3 board members on a committee.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
nice.
yes. I see.
2 citizen members, that's what it is now.
Or committee members and stayers.
Yeah.
And they can't vote, it's just we're bringing recommendations back to the board.
Right.
I have,
Yeah, they have no authority for spending money or approving things, that's still comes back to the full board.
Yeah, if you can get the bodies.
Exactly. Yeah, we got 3 people that are excited. And they were really great. Yes, I'm very excited to volunteer.
Yeah.
So we could increase boards to a maximum of 6, say, with 3 and 3, if the committee wants.
And then you
Right,
can,
I mean, there's no minimum.
yeah, and then you can tell those. Right, and then you can either tell those, you don't have to, you know, like the finance and park fees are already half free to, right? So if you add a 3rd citizen, you don't have to fill it just because you have it, but, you know, if you're seeing the policy at all. So,
There were a couple of other points that we were discussing about committees. Which I think are we gonna approve these at the same time? Or?
now, I thought we'd discuss that during a future meeting. Unless you want to do that, that's what we're talking about.
Oh,
We have, this was pretty close. to that.
Okay.
Yeah, structure this is separate.
All right, fine. Does someone want to make a motion to have
Sure.
6 members?
I will make a motion to have up to 3 board members, pardon me, up to 3 commissioners and 3 citizen committee members on our committees.
Art, can we have a roll call, please? Sue Ray.
Mr. Vila?
Yes.
Mr. Lane? Yes. Mr. Raymore?
yes,
Mr. Peter?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Pool beach financing options. Scott?
All right, we had a meeting on Friday of last week where we discussed the amounts needed for the beach repair, the amount needed for pool entire redo. We didn't get into the various options that Emily and her board have discussed. And after that discussion, we felt that it would be of the best interest of the board to ask for the full amount when going to a referendum and issue a 15-year bond for the best rate and most liquidity. Really, the reason behind this is if you look at the financials of the park district, yes, we do have the funds to pay for 20 to 30% of this project over 15 years. But we just don't have that money, right now. And, we will need that up front to pay for these costs. There was no discussion about making any recommendations of which project to do. But this was just an all-encompassing, discussion of if either pool or beach or pool and beach to make a recommendation for the issuing in the full amount of the project.
Now, I have a question. I'm confused. John, you gave us each these 2 pages with a sheet, small print. That's not ridiculous. But in the packet that was in the finance packet, you have what looks like the same sheet, but it's different numbers.
This was updated from the finance packet, Josh. and-
Yeah, it's got, it's on Thursday.
The one you have in front of you is the updated.
So this is the accurate,
Yes, this is the updated version.
this is not as good.
No, unfortunately, it's not as good. Pencils have erasers, and Excel, you know, has a delete button. So we were able to find an error, and unfortunately, this is you know, the correct projections.
Someone's got their own calculator. I don't know where. So we can generate internally about $2.4 million over the next 10 years.
Sure, but that's all backlogged, right? We don't have any funds right now to, you know, pay the project. Now, if we get a, you know, terms of credit with the contractor for 15 years, then yeah, we can probably make this work, but I don't foresee that happening.
Do we have, I don't know if anybody knows this, can we get any kind of balloon financing? You know, where for 10 years or 5 years or 8 years or something, we'll pay interest only. And then after that period, we start paying principal plus interest.
Yeah, I believe that's something similar to that would do. Do believe it's an option. Good job.
Okay. So we could, within the limits of our ability, finance. If we were only doing things from internal funds, we could look at doing something like that.
I believe so.
Yeah, that's definitely a Piper Sandler question. I would question the appetite to take something that bespoke down from an institution. I guess if it can fit into their cash flow schedule. You know, it's just, I think it's, you know, more, I guess, normal to have just, you know, semi-annual or annual coupon payments.
What is your thinking on suggesting?
Pardon?
What is your thinking on suggesting that?
Well, I mean, first, if your assumptions are the same, Scott, and the rest of the committee, because the whole committee's here, then you're talking about a $2.5 million surplus every year. So when we were looking at 25% per fund, and you just took a $2.5 million overall amount. And then you were also taking $100,000 from our headroom, from our debt service headroom, and putting that aside. Those assumptions are still valid, correct? So I think the first question is, all the capital expenditures that we planned are in. Plus, and we're going to talk about the golf course later, if we are able to lower the capital expenditures for the golf course, which I think sounds like it's realistic. Whether it be all eliminated or, you know, whatever, I think the sizable amount of that will end up not having spent. So first of all, are we comfortable spending all the money on, do we think that's enough of a cushion? Where we can spend the rest on the pool and beach?
Is the pool not in here?
They are. Pool and beach, and the new pool and the full beach house.
Can I just get a clarification? What is it that we're being asked to approve exactly this evening? So I see it says, explore the 15-year bond option to support the beach and pool improvements. Are we saying that we're approving this $8.9 million number? No.
No, if you want to consider the bond moving forward, that's what would be.
No matter what
We're
we're
going
going
to
to
the table.
Okay, just want to be clear.
Because depending on what we do for pool and for beach, this number could modify, or this would be the maximum.
So we can generate roughly, if we take money from the Friends and we take some money from the golf course, then we can generate internally $4 million.
3.5, yeah.
Non-referendum, this is the referendum. So
Internally, 4 million, everything on top of that, we need to go with.
Is that using operations expenses? Money, I mean, is that, how are we getting more money for that again? Is that just?
We're getting it from operating income.
I'm,
Headroom from borrowing will be able to do it later years. Money from the Friends. And an extra surplus profits generated from operating income on top of the $2.5 million cushion that is built into the.
I would probably want to look a little bit more. I have heard, I don't know the details, that we went upside down with the rec centers, we built that off of operations rather than a referendum. And I have heard from community people, you know, some of them, who said we've never gotten out of the hole because of that. So I want to know more about that and do some investigating before I talk about getting us into the hole. I feel like we're the part that we can find coming out of the hole. And I don't want to be out of more quick back into the hole. So I think it's worth doing some due diligence to understand that.
We are coming out of the hole. And I think we all recognize that's your understanding of that problem is same as my understanding.
And then the meeting that we had with Piper some time ago, that we talked about, we definitely came off, we are still paying off the original debt that has been refinanced and rolled over. So yes, it is still the old cost that means around the little that. So I would be hesitant to get into another one like that. That's, I think we're all talking about this kind of history, we know that that's a very different time and very different work, I guess, we're not paying for that still. But what we're looking at now is being much more fiscally conservative as to definitely have a healthy structure and making sure that we get, we've got a cushion cover, making sure that we stay with our budget to be able to do this and not run into any sort of. It's a good point because we don't want to have that.
Scott and the others, Noel, JP, I know, you know, and Jennifer, how do you all feel about the pushing we're giving ourselves with this?
Well, first of all, I'll say it's exceedingly challenging to hear everyone speak. JP, if you were at the meeting, you probably have the consensus of the committee. Maybe you can speak, you know, more clearly for the whole.
Yeah, no, I'm just. Yeah, no, I think generally we're comfortable. Yeah.
I think that, you know, that to me is the question. Are we comfortable? And, you know, Sue, your point is well taken. At what level, what cushion do we feel comfortable with?
Yeah, right.
To say we can raise this internally.
Wait, I'm sorry, what funds are we raising internally here? We're raising funds in the future to fund a project now, right? We need these funds now.
Potentially, we're using $4 million of internally generated funds.
Yeah, that's great for like a PR spin, but that we can't take that $4 million in future income and spend it now, right? That's the whole point of a bond.
I'm not sure I understand.
I mean, but this is, right, these are all our expenses for the next 10 years, and they will be covered. That would be, that's what I'm,
We're able to cover,
all our capital.
Right.
Including this whole, we're including
No,
two demos, okay, we're able to, from this budget, and you can jump into, and Scott will be up projecting that, so, deeper. From the budget that we have here, the projection is how we cover our internal costs from the revenue that we're generating, but we also have this additional cost of the pool fee. We will be able to get more money from what we're generating internally this way to be able to fund projects internally, but we're also looking at what kind of debt can we take on and still comfortably manage that debt, including all of our capital expenses on an annual basis. So we're all talking about the same thing, and I hope that makes sense.
Yes, and the proceeds can be used exclusively for the projects.
So Scott, what was the amount, I'm sorry, I wasn't in the finance meetings, as I was saying, so what was the amount that you were talking about financing through, possibly 15-year bond?
We did not come up with a number that was not the point of the discussion, because locking ourselves into a number just creates a seed in the community. It's a moot point if we haven't even got bids yet. The fact of the matter is, even with the beach project, we'll have to go to referendum and get this done. So the amount is anything north of $4 million, really $2 million.
well, I mean, if we were to do a new pool and a beach project, we need to raise $9 million to run.
And that's
And
that,
we need,
that's that 8.9
Right.
million.
and we have to be comfortable that all the other funds would be there. That our operating income would be what it's projected to be. Right? And then the Friends donates $1 million to us.
And Scott ran the hypothetical as well now, just in case, because we brought it up before. If the Friends could meet their 100,000, will that really impact that greatly? And Scott is correcting me if I'm wrong, but it really did. So it's sustainable without any, if there is a misinformation.
And like I say, there should be more money from the golf course. So if the Friends end up not putting in $1 million, the golf course, we might get 500,000 back from the golf course. So even if we do the beach, $4.5 million, even if we do a renovation of the pool, a major renovation for $3 million, we're still gonna have to get a referendum. We're still gonna need, $4 million instead of $9 million.
So are the numbers on this worksheet then sort of like a worst case scenario? I mean, what's sort of the spirit of these numbers? If we're not,
The floor on the high end, the actual budget aspect of it is 2% increase for revenue and expenses, so for personnel, I think it's about 2.5%. Budgeting out that far. But we actually need to cool that, I think.
It looks like we're going to be on the phone. Yeah. Okay.
Well, to me, what it sounds like is we need a referendum. End of story. Unless we do nothing, and then we're not going to have very good results if we do nothing.
so, but again, the motion is just to say, that we're giving the okay to explore, that's all.
Yeah.
We don't have to do it. We don't know how much money we need yet of a referendum. It's just, we're gonna say to the finance committee, go ahead and start talking about it.
Okay.
Right? Is that correct? And I don't wanna
Yes, that's all we're saying.
put it incorrectly. Okay.
I mean,
It's to show the community, if we were to proceed with this project, they're not, before we even go to bid, this is how we plan on financing it. And here's why.
Got it. And could you guys just talk give us a few bullet points on what exploring the bond option means, just like logistically? It sounds like you'll be talking with a firm to assist us with that and so forth.
And we reprice whether they're not on board, it's out.
So what does exploring mean? Just so we know what your next steps are.
We go back to 5%, ask them to refresh the numbers, what the pricing we look like based on current dates, and be able to have more detailed discussion on what the actual cost of it.
So as we continue our conversation with what will be pool, and we continue our conversation with how we are building each project, right? We know that our range, excuse me, that's not the least,
In that case.
so that we can start refining our discussion with what we're talking about. We are comfortable with talking about let's talk about upper half of what we can do,
Right.
and then start home.
And so the numbers that they're working on, Piper Sandler, are they these numbers that they're working with?
We get some kind of numbers so far.
JP just mentioned that they were gonna work with some numbers. I'm just wondering, what numbers are they working with?
They're not, no one's working with any numbers. Piper Sandler simply came in and said, here are your finances. Here's how much you can raise non-referendum. If you went to referendum, here's what the timeline would look like. It was then incumbent on us to determine what, if we even had these projections, and could we cover this over time and pay the money back. We determined from our analysis this was in fact possible. From our conversation with Piper Sandler a couple months ago, it seemed that a 15-year issue was the most easily digestible for the market. We would have the best chance of getting the lowest rate when we actually went to bid for this. That is the purpose of this discussion. We don't need to have any type of action or motion here. We can simply just say, hey, we're informing you right now. And then once we go to referendum for the community, then we can start to explore these further. This is just our coming back and saying this is our due diligence.
Unfortunately, it certainly looks like interest rates are going to be going up. And we can't go to referendums until it's true. So we're not going to be borrowing any money sometime after that. And, I don't think rates are going to go through the roof, but, every 0.5% or 1% is, becomes, fairly meaningful money. But it is what it is. I mean, we can't borrow money now, so. Or if we do, we have no way of paying it back. So
This sounds like a good idea, right? To continue to understand, back and forth with our consultant as to what our options could be, no matter what number we land on. Okay. Good.
See, like I say, I think the numbers are all here. I think if we go over these numbers, there's everything we need to know what we're talking about from dollars and cents. We don't have an exact cost of the pool. We don't have an exact cost of the beach. But we're in that ballpark. We assume. And to your point, Sue, I have to say that giving us first a $2.5 million portion, which isn't taken into account here, plus the $100,000 a year borrowing capacity, which we're not putting here, and ending up with $2.4 million. You know, to me, that sounds like, and paying all our capital expenditures for the next 10 years. To me, that sounds like we're in good shape for that.
So I would just say, I think, I'll just speak for myself as a newer commissioner, it'd be great to understand these numbers better, right? Sue, maybe you feel the same way, right? So before we would offer a vote for something more than just exploration, you know, whatever we need to do to understand that better, I think would be very important.
Yes, I spent some time at home, it's time to go through these. I was a part of the finance committee prior to this, so it's been time with me and it would be very beneficial to go through these things. So you see, I honor that.
So here you go, yeah, you were joined too.
So,
All right. So we'll endeavor to do that while they continue to consult.
yeah, okay, make sure that we spend time.
Yeah, so I mean, I can agree that on the concept, I can't nail down any of these numbers, you know, and I think.
And we're not agreeing to go to referendum right now, we're just agreeing to consult.
I think we're all agreeing that there's probably support that needs to be done to reach the goal. I agree, and this is the investigation to figure out how they have to get paid. Right.
And, you know, I think there's still a question, and then you should, well,
Say a couple of minutes, other than to say.
if we still have to decide if doing anything to the beach is allowed. We still have to decide what we want to do with the pool, whether it's build a brand new pool or do major $2 to $3 million repairs or get the Band-Aids out, which Noah's looking kind of ill when I say that. So those are decisions we still have, because that final total that we need to go for referendum on, if we go for referendum, you know, it could still be $25 million, that's or more. So that decision we need to make.
And I have a word about the referendum, the timing. Now, and maybe think about higher, possibly referendum. I think the library day on their birthday too, like our birthdays come out, and I think the library 1 year after it is go. Wait, you said what was their birthday?
My birthday?
Yeah, for March.
35.
Yeah, so I think the library is going to younger. And I don't know when the think about the water.
Well, you know, the village, we had this discussion. I discussed it in depth with Regis. You know, frankly, I think it looks like this $1 trillion infrastructure bill has a really good chance of becoming law. And if it does, there will be money available to communities to do the things that the village seems to want to do. And I would think the first thing they would want to do would be to see what kind of grant money becomes available from that infrastructure. Before you go to the community, I mean, you know, who would vote for a referendum for this? Knowing that there's going to be this huge infrastructure, we're going to be throwing dollars at various communities. And Illinois is a blue state, so now we get money.
So do we need to,
I'm sorry for being politics.
need to do a vote?
I'm a yes.
We are not doing a vote on this tonight.
No, but just to move forward with the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just to know what we
Yeah,
have.
okay, well, then I'm a yes or whatever you do. So, okay, thank you, sorry guys.
Really great, I would say it's on the agenda for approval. I recommend, just.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it is. I would recommend just a generic motion to move forward with exploring, basically is what's worded on the minimum.
The agenda, I'm sorry.
Yeah, motion to approve exploring 18-year bond office for the.
Perfect.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Lang? Yes. Commissioner Raymore? Yes. Commissioner Peter?
Yes.
Welch? She voted yes.
She said it.
Yes.
Can't do it now.
Doesn't matter.
Commissioner Weller?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, and again, thanks to the committee, the finance committee, and Josh. We have the numbers, and I can appreciate that some of you want to be able to delve into these numbers.
I love to drive people, finance people crazy,
Sure.
but.
Well, you know, and John, we had talked about this. If Josh can get together with the board members who want to get together, and two at a time, so we don't have any open meeting act.
He pretty much has that information put together that we're not, we're really about ready to schedule, some of those sessions in diesel. Yeah,
Okay, good.
the whole workshop.
Future meetings. We've had some discussion, and I'd say we started out, Emily and John and I were, meeting with golf agents. And we started to discuss some of the issues regarding committee meetings. And a couple of points came up that I thought we'd like to discuss and hopefully improve over them. First of all, there was the opinion that, you know, the question of in-person versus Zoom. What do we do Zoom? What do we do in person? Legally, I guess we can kind of do more or less what we want to do. Now, how's that for an if statement, right? Kind of more or less, maybe doable. And we have the feeling that we should do our regular board meetings in person. And do all our committee meetings by Zoom, so committee of the whole and the individual committees. So that was point one, and that, both from a health point of view, we're getting into a lot of committee meetings. We had a lot more committee of the whole meetings because of the topics that we're discussing that require a lot of work. And so both of them are, there are good reasons to work that way. And my understanding is I can write a letter to the board, which I will do work on the proper text, where we can declare special circumstances where we're allowed to do this. So that was point number one. Point number two was to try to come up with a fixed schedule for committees, so that perhaps once a month, each committees would rotate once a month, fixed. So month one, finance committee, month two, facilities and programs, month three, parks and beach. So that everybody knows going in that there is going to be a meeting of that committee on that day. At the same time, committees would be free, and in a lot of cases would have to meet more frequently than that, call other meetings, which is not an issue. But to know that there would be fixed meetings. I'm not, I kind of think that perhaps, for example, the finance committee might want to set regular meetings more frequently than that. I don't know about the other committees, but again, that's something that we wanted to discuss, see how people felt about it. Point three, I've discussed with a couple other people, and when we have the Zoom meetings, one thought that we'd like to bring up is that we are all on video during the Zoom meetings, so that board members and staff have their video on during meetings. And that anybody speaking, anyone from the public speaking, will likewise turn their video on. That we feel we're communicating with each other. It's appropriate that we see the people we're talking to. And certainly when we have visitors, that we see the visitor in quote unquote in person, as opposed to just the audio.
So you're suggesting that we're all on Zoom in the room, so that.
No. When we're in person, we're here.
Cameras on.
So for the regular board meetings, if we're doing in-person meetings, that we're all here in person and we're not on Zoom.
So for example, Scott was on Zoom, that would not be allowed in the future. The problem I have with this setup is that.
The problem I have with this is that I have to quarantine, so I'm trying to do my civic duty here right now, and I wouldn't be able to do that. So I could come in tonight and, you know, take care of all that with everyone, but boy, I certainly don't think that's fair.
But I do think that if he's on Zoom or any of us are on Zoom, we need to make it set up so that they can actually hear us. Because you heard him, he couldn't hear.
Jeff Spillman has ordered equipment and it will be arriving this week, I believe. Jeff, is that right?
Okay, Jeff's on mute, so.
Yes, Scott.
Thank you.
When we're all on Zoom, we're gonna be all on Zoom. On computer. So then, I mean, we had that one meeting when the audio broke down completely and it was freezing all the time. But absent a problem, a technical problem with that, we'd all be on Zoom or we're all here. And again, I want to add, the in-person meeting is only as good as the health situation. So that hopefully doesn't change, but.
Well, so this is how we've been operating since I've been on board, that we're here. And to the extent that we can be here, we are in person. And so how is this different than?
Well, we didn't have Zoom and we did not have, so every meeting, committees, everything was in person.
I'll just formalizing.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you.
So there's a few reasons for not being, that you could be on Zoom, traveling, for work, not able to be here, health situation, there's a few different reasons if we can't be here, that, board member, you can't do. But otherwise, a strong recommendation that you be in person, if possible, and for staff, for the regular meeting. I would temper, again, what we're saying about that right now, see Cook County is going, they're mandating masks inside all the time. And it is quite possible Lake County will follow. And I believe you that if we go back to that, you don't want to do the in-person with masks, you'd rather be on Zoom all the time.
I would.
So, as things change, we have to adapt, change our routine.
And so the main thing here is that we're going to make the committee always.
Yeah, we're not.
And that's what they are now.
Yeah.
That's what we've been.
Yeah.
So that's
And the committee of the whole meeting.
Correct.
So the only people in person is.
I think it's a lot more efficient.
And then the fourth point is the question of the time of day that committees meet. And my suggestion, which I don't think has universal approval, is that those committee meetings that are regularly scheduled, at the very least, meet at 6:30 in the evening, so that other board members can attend without regard to the work that most of us have during the day. And I think individual committees may have found it more convenient to meet at, 7:30 in the morning or 8:30 in the morning, or something like that. Which I accept on Zoom is easier to do. But it does make it hard for other board members who have day jobs, who can't necessarily break off from those jobs to go watch the committee meeting. So,
Okay, so we just need a motion to,
well, I think we need to discuss this too. So I think the first thing is regular meeting, all in person, unless we're in quarantine. When on Zoom, we're all on video, including any public speakers. Fixed committee meetings, minimum committee meetings ahead of time. And then before the time of those regular meetings.
When you say minimum, this looks like it's like rotating, so that you do each one quarter, you have a minimum quarter. And it'll only be the same day of the month, etc.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to achieve, just to make a regular schedule for committee members to expect.
the only thing, I don't think you can, expect, if it's a Zoom meeting, I don't think you can be, unless you're speaking, be required, I guess, people to be on video the whole time, only because our meetings tend to be pretty long. And so if you're on a Zoom meeting, sometimes you have to go on mute and turn your camera off if you are, it's home in the evening or something like that, and somebody needs you for a few minutes. I'm just saying, there has to be a little bit of flexibility there.
And then there should be.
This is the reality of it. Yeah.
Personal experience and making sure you're
Right. But just the standard like corporate world, expectations, so.
I think
Nothing part of it. Yeah. just-
And I get the thought of that, like, quarter meeting, right?
If I do pressure that I probably use my time with staff to say, we need to do a meeting record, it's a great idea to do it quarterly. I just, my concern, is really just trying to find the appropriate time to do this. I just think we can do one of the things that I want to get over and forward, but definitely obligations that they can sometimes, so early morning meetings, sufficient, probably hold to an hour, so the finance committee meeting was very efficient the other day, it was done within 30 minutes or so.
We have one session. Is it just one session?
Yeah.
How do the rest of you feel?
Well, my only thing I'll just tell you on the, right now it's scheduled for the fourth Wednesday, and I have a standing board meeting on the fourth Wednesday from between 11 and 2. So that would prohibit me from attending these if we did it midday on the fourth Wednesday. Any other Wednesday would be fine, and I'm flexible all the week if you want.
So we were looking for the week in between the committee of the whole and the regular, so that's the third week of the month, and it could be a third. I mean, we're just trying to come up with, something basic, a timeline or frame, for that.
I have I'll do whatever, because I don't have any limitations with our family or work.
Part of that, we're trying to spread out the meetings for that, and especially for Dawn, our administrative assistant, we have for the packet, agendas, everything you got for this meeting, so that, we can kind of spread this out through the weeks of the month and, have, multiple meetings that close together.
Is it possible to do to schedule meetings?
We have, yeah.
Okay, so what if you put something out on Google to say that, okay, committees, let's start plugging them in.
We can do that, so it depends, you know, usually staff works with the community chair, either the community chair can reach out if they have a preference on a day and time or a couple of days, or we as staff, you know, will reach out, but, you know, we look at something like that and then sort of takes, you know, that takes a little bit of back and forth out, you know, if people, you know, you come up with a few options and they can plug in their availability. We were just trying to get a kind of a standing, regular schedule.
And I think it's efficiency.
Short of time, you know, that's stuff that.
And again, these are minimal.
Yeah, so you're saying the third
You know,
Wednesday,
this is-
these are just in a regular report, you wouldn't want to, right?
Correct. Yeah, I think that was supposed to be the third.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
time.
Fair enough. And that makes sense in between the community whole and
Yeah.
the board meeting.
It's a great idea. The first staffing, so they can prepare better to put in, and you know, it's just to help everybody.
So then it's a really matter of time. What is that day? What's that? There's the,
Yeah. Like the
I prefer to have the meeting during the day. So, I work full time, and I have flexibility with my schedule. So that would be my personal preference, but I'm happy to go with whatever's best for everyone.
I feel like our committee members, everybody has changed, so I think we just integrate it during the day. And everybody on the. I think you're keeping the time a little bit longer.
I agree.
personally, people like to do.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you have volunteers that are doing it, it's not, they're not official, right? Volunteers that are on these committees. So the evenings are usually when people spend time together with families, dinners. And after school events, we go with the family.
Right, that's true.
So because we have many volunteers, maybe the team, or people a little bit more flexible. For the board meetings, totally makes sense for anyone official. But it makes
I think things that are committees, we have to, I don't think we can even finalize this without having at large members. Because you might have a committee and three of them are all working, if you don't have availability. There might be a little bit of flexibility.
I haven't heard anybody complain that they were forced to do a committee meeting at a time that they didn't want to do. I think it's important that they all agree, or at least, everybody agrees and that you don't. I certainly don't want to see anyone excluded from meetings because they can't meet at 8:30 in the morning and someone else has to have the meeting. Then I think you have to maybe default to that evening time.
I think, in tandem with thinking about the time of day, I think it's helpful to think about the efficiency of the meetings as well. So if you're meeting during the day, we can keep the meeting to say an hour and a half. That's easier than a longer meeting, and same for the evening meetings.
Yeah.
So really being more efficient with the agenda, I would say, is a better thing to focus on than the actual time as to when the meeting is being held. Anyone on a committee, whether you're volunteering or an elected official, appreciates that.
All right, can we put this together then? And I think what we're saying is if we can get a motion, please, to set up committee meetings on a minimum schedule of once quarterly for each committee to be rotated. That the regular board meeting will be in person only for commissioners and staff. The guests will still have the Zoom option. And that commissioners and staff should make every effort to have the video on we're having this review. And second,
Second. Okay. Second was Lane.
Lane, and we don't say anything about time. Partial roll call.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Lane? Yes. Commissioner Mayborn? Yes. Commissioner Richard?
Yes.
Commissioner Weber?
No.
President Whitfield?
Yes. Okay. Oh. Very quickly. We met with golf officials. They are very interested in working with us on a lease extension. We discussed several immediate issues with them, and we discussed the issue of capital improvements. And they seemed very amenable to coming up with some kind of solution to help pay for capital improvements for the golf course. It would now be as of the current contract, our responsibility. They are going to be coming back to us with their plan for capital improvements. It may differ a little bit from ours, and we discussed some individual pieces. And they're going to come back with thoughts on what we could do for the long-term payment for the capital improvements. And I think that's all we're doing. That if we can avoid any financial liabilities on the operational side, and if we can reduce or eliminate our capital expenditures, seems to be a good deal.
Is it related to extending the contract
Well,
or renewing it early? Is that what this is about?
They want to.
I know.
one of the things is that in our current agreement, they call for us to do this every year. To evaluate and talk about capital, needs for the golf course, from our perspective, which we have, and we provided to them. That was the 10-year, in our 10-year capital list, that you all have the list that we provided it to them. They're also supposed to help identify what they see as capital, needs, although that's something that we have to approve the park district, because we would actually, under the current agreement, be paying for that anything over 1,500. So that's supposed to be happening each year. It hasn't happened yet. So, we, started in discussion to review the capital needs. They are interested in doing a new, lease on golf carts. And I believe that was, maybe a seven-year lease they were talking about. So, that was part of the discussion. Some of the discussion was about the current condition of the course, how, their, grounds crew are, how they're keeping up the course. Also the operation, the food and beverage, and the efficiency of play at the golf course, or, some issues that, that we've been made aware of as far as, not having a starter, backup. So we discussed that, and then the final thing really we discussed in the meeting was the revenue, which is, what you can see in that memo here. They're having a very good year, in revenues compared to last year. So just to, point out that the revenue at this point is 746,000 through the end of July, compared to 529,000 last year. Last year it ended up having, one of the best years in many years. At 800,000, they only pay us $1 for 800,000 at least, and over 800,000, we receive 10%. So right now, it looks like it's going to be a very good year for them and for us. And the rounds are up as well. So that's kind of what, those are the discussion was about.
Questions?
No questions.
It was a very, very positive meeting. So, and the course is in good shape, and people like it, people are happy playing there. So, and we will go, you know, depending what they come back with. I think the idea is that we would work towards the community agreement now, which would give us the opportunity to change the capital expenditure.
Seems to me there was a vote maybe right before I started in April, that we did not, really early, is that true?
No,
I can go back.
There was something similar to that was discussed that, not at that time, to explore because they had given us a specific request somewhere around February with a letter, asking us to renew and the discussion about the golf course at that time. So there was, your memory's pretty good, an actual, I don't remember if it was a motion, but there was, I remember reading in the minutes again, a discussion that was not to, the notion at the time, since it's not renew the contract right now, and they had backed off their request as well, and said the cards were fine, they'll use them for this year. One of the things they're concerned about now is a 9 to 12 month lead time on cards, so they would want to be ordering them soon for next year. So that was.
I think the reasoning behind that was. That's why we wanted to. Really do that project. We're not doing.
okay, paddle board heater replacement.
So, in order to be fiscally responsible, we outsource piecemeal each part of this process. Resident coordinators, liquid rates, contractors themselves. We're currently working on it, so we expect to have what we've done well in advance of
This is a project that the board did approve in the budget, so that's the 40,000. For improvement, those fees again, I believe will be paid through the capital, features for players.
Yeah, so some of, it'll be repaid through that capital.
Yeah.
That they receive, along with renovations, when we do renovations of, carpet, and painting, as well as they've done a few fundraisers, which we're going to be adding a, patio heater, like the tall one's going to be more, like it's
Advanced fireplace, but
yeah.
like a patio fire.
And that'll be added probably, after Christmas.
And what is the capital fee? I gave you the 50 or something.
It's 75.
Summers access project impact.
So this was, just, again, I know this, the meeting is running on, so I'll be as brief as possible. Just, quick. Word about Sunrise, if you've been down in the past week, you can see that Copenhagen was really finally, finished up, the Volvo project. It's looking better by the day. They've been out there finishing up landscaping, some of the, the blanket seed and restoring that area, the plugs, the pathways finished up. I know that Noah's been out there and we're team actually working on, to help them finalize and finish up the upper section of the pathway's been opened up, just much better shape. So get a chance to go down there, it looks pretty fantastic, we're getting a lot of feedback, and it looks like, you know, we're gonna, actually be finishing up this project, you know, very soon. Again, other than the gate and some of the handrails, the custom ironwork can take a little bit longer. The impact is, a notion I brought up at, one of the, I believe it was the Park Beach Committee, meeting. And, again, you know, our thought was, in just discussing this with staff, you know, was just the fact that this project is spread out as long as it has, fortunately through the primary summer season. We've caused a lot of inconvenience to our neighbors of this project. So, you know, there's been a lot of, you know, they're cutting bricks. There were a lot of bricks that went into all of those three terrace areas, as well as the pathway. So that's getting bit and brick and red dust that's, you know, that's floating in the air, blowing out of the houses. With it, the air spading for the roofs, you know, that throws dirt dust 15 feet in the air, and then that blows over. I watched it one day, poor Joyce Foster was just covering her house and her bushes, and was a very good sport about it, but it was making a mess of her yard. We got a lot of trouble, not trouble, but, you know, inconvenience of the traffic, generators, you know, they're starting at 7 in the morning. And, you know, there's been days towards the end that they're working 10-hour days. So the construction traffic and my thought was that, you know, this recommendation, I guess, for the committee and before you consider doing something like a piece of gift card for the neighbors, where we can say, here's, you know, whatever amount you decide at 200 or 250, and you can hire your own contractor to hang out, power wash, windows clean, whatever you want to do with that. But we appreciate your patience. This isn't a normal project, you know, we do something like the pickleball courts, we're in and out, and, you know, there's not a whole lot of inconvenience to the neighbor. This specific project there is, you know, just the nature of it, and some of the challenges we've dealt with this contractor and caused that. And so my feeling was it was just kind of a gesture, a goodwill gesture for our neighbors that have been pretty patient in putting up with the project. Something from the park district just to say, you know, thank you for putting up and being, you know, patient with us.
So what are you suggesting? Like, you said $200, is that?
Yeah, I said 200 or $250 gift card. First, we thought, you know, maybe hire, you know, could we negotiate like a group deal with somebody that does power washing houses or whatever, but, you know, if we hire a contractor and they mess something up, then it's our problem. You know, if we just give them money and we let them hire no contractor, then that's between that contractor. So I would just suggest for doing it, maybe just a gift card.
So we talked about this if maybe, and it was the general positive, again, to be good neighbors to these folks. This wasn't, so there wasn't a lot of, pushback for their driveways being blocked, their houses being, their power being destroyed, things like that. So it really was just because people right along Sunrise that.
So that time that, you know, the Bob Wallace's garden was picked up because, you know, a couple of the laborers were parking their cars in front of their house, which is no parking area. And, you know, again, talked to the foreman, you know, and then it's corrected, but their garbage was already skipped that day, you know, so it's been inconveniences, you know, for a few months here as the project has gone on.
So I read that meeting and I recommended we could do that, you know.
How many houses are you talking about?
Yes, you would look at that, what we're talking about maybe 5 or 6 houses altogether. I think we were, you know, one house south of Joyce maybe to one house north of Bob. So that area, that seems to be, that's the most impacted by all the cutting, you know, wood, bricks, all the dirt, dust, you know, noise and stuff, and go back.
Also had projects, you know, much more information. And so my point was, you know, if you start doing things like that, there was something of I don't know when it's kind of like, really, it is nice, it is the taxpayers' money that you're giving to people, but to me, it's kind of, we're supposed to be fiscally responsible, and I don't know if it's fiscally responsible to be that big certificate every time you feel. Maybe people want, you know, so if you wanted to do something that's not maybe, like, a gift certificate to you, the part of it, they can towards the pool, or the gym, or the paddle, or some of the facilities here. It wouldn't cost money because it's free.
I like that idea, but I don't think it would necessarily, it might be used if we need it.
I kind of like your train of thought is like, where does it end?
Yeah, yeah.
I just kind of, I don't think about, I just think about like the 4th of July parade. You know, where like all those houses along the parade route get trashed every year, a little bit, you know, it's into the trash.
I guess my agreement with John is that this was supposed to end in June, to the entire summer.
Yeah.
And unlike the North Shore or even the Revette and whatever beach work, it's down on the beach. This was the entire top of the beach. So it really was impactful, much more than any other. So that's kind of the reason why I would say maybe this was
Like a one-time.
And that wasn't the same to the first level, it could be, you know, if you need to expend more money to do something like this. This is really a unique situation. I'd like to kind of make two things that we invited them to that, I'd also like to invite them to do the sunrise rocks. Just come and see, because we're gonna get like this coming up, we're not always gonna have you don't think everybody's along the parade route. They think that they're along the parade route, and boy, those people who finally got the parade route. And it was really good change for them. I agree with John, that it's just a very small, goodwill gesture, and who knows, they may return to the same state, you know, they know whatever it's gonna be, but it's just, being able to. And it would be, if it's 5 houses.
I understand both points. I think it's gonna be a lot cleaner and probably make more of an impression if we give them, rather than if we give them services they may.
Totally a thought. It is nice when you say it, and, I guess, you know, little things.
And, you know, maybe if some of them say, if Bob Wallace says, you're gonna have to give me anything, you know, that, then they'll turn the person.
You're right. I just don't like spending those. I agree. It's like, if we're spending people's money on, like, you know, it just makes me feel bad.
I maybe this giving a gift to you, it's never really giving a gift, and then you're just kind of.
Does anybody want to, like, give money personally?
To do something. It's kind of the cleanup services, you know, no one would go on and protecting their bushes or take their bushes or anything.
We pay for community relations. We pay for public relations. So, to me, it's not so much we're giving people money, we're paying some money from the community. But that's all.
So, I move that, for the houses directly impacted by the beach accessibility project on Sunrise Avenue, that those residents be offered a letter and a gift card valued at $200 to use for discussion, for inconvenience of the project.
And the gift card is for the park district.
Sorry?
The gift card is for the park district.
And also, this would be just a gift card. $200 to use it for
for the visa cards, they get their house washed. Second.
Partial roll call, please. Call
Commissioner Bueller.
Yes.
Commissioner Warren. Yeah. Commissioner Raymore.
Yeah.
Commissioner Whitaker.
Yes.
Commissioner Weber. Commissioner Weber.
Yes.
roll. Yes. Okay.
Go sign that one over.
Back in regular session. So I would like, Emily, if you could make a motion, please. To nominate your two citizen members for facilities programs. And we can do Sue as well. You're going to do Sue? For,
Oh, yes, sorry. Yeah, I would be happy. But in fact, you didn't ask me, so.
Well, they did a memo and they, putting, different board members on different, committees. So it would be good to add it to the motion, with the recommendation from the committee. Board member, the third board member, to other committee members that are citizens.
So can I make sure that you just move that the appointment person status be approved from August 2021 to May 23.
So in this, you'll have to actually, in the motion, you'll need to say their name.
Okay. So move that McCain Cole and Michelle Brown be appointed to Facilities and Programs Committee. Also adding appointing Sue Raymore to Programs Committee.
I guess, second, please.
Second.
Facility program committee. So adding Sue as our third board member and recommending the two,
Roll call, please.
Seconded that. Commissioner Bueller.
Yes.
Commissioner Lane.
Yes.
Commissioner Raymore. Commissioner Reader.
Yes.
Commissioner Weber.
Yes.
Yes. And now I can have a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor?
Thanks, everyone.
Finally used it. Thank you all for your long meeting.
I always see the house on bang bang.
and the only thing I made a note